The night carried a chill so deep it felt alive, creeping beneath doors and sliding between the cracks of old window frames. The air hummed with silence, that strange kind that feels like it's holding its breath, waiting for something unseen to unfold. In the dim light of the kitchen, I stood before a simmering pot, the wooden spoon turning slow, deliberate circles. Wisps of steam curled upward, fogging the glass above the sink and painting faint ghosts of warmth against the cold. My name is Marianne, and for as long as I can remember, it's been just me and my son against the world. At 44, I'd grown accustomed to the rhythm of solitude, the quiet dinners, the empty side of the bed, the faint echo of laughter that once belonged to a home full of people. My son Daniel, 22 now, had been my only constant. My reason to keep waking up, to keep pushing forward even when life tried to drown me in its relentless tide. We'd been through storms that stripped away almost everything, yet somehow we always found our way back to each other. But that night, something felt different. The stillness carried a strange tension, like the air before a thunderstorm. The sound of keys rattling in the door made me glance toward the hallway. Daniel stepped inside, shoulders hunched beneath the weight of exhaustion. His hair was damp from the mist outside, his eyes dull and distant, not the sharp, thoughtful eyes that once sparkled whenever he spoke about his dreams. He worked at a small bookstore downtown and studied literature at night. Books had always been his escape, his way of understanding the world. But lately, the light in him had been fading, replaced by something heavier, a weariness that clung to his every breath. "Hey, Mom," he murmured, voice low, almost cracked. "I think I'm coming down with something." I set the spoon aside, wiping my hands on a towel. "You look pale, sweetheart. Go lie down. I'll bring you some soup when it's ready." He nodded, his movement sluggish as he made his way down the hallway. The floorboards creaked beneath his steps, a familiar sound that somehow hurt tonight. I grabbed a quilt from the couch and followed him to his room. He had already sunk into bed, curling slightly as though trying to shield himself from the world. I tucked the blanket around him the way I used to when he was a little boy afraid of thunderstorms. "Thanks, Mom," he whispered, eyes fluttering shut. I smiled softly, brushing a hand through his hair. "Rest, baby. You've been pushing yourself too hard." For a brief moment, time folded back. The years dissolved, and it was just me and my little boy again. The one who used to hold my hand when crossing the street, the one who believed I could fix everything. But behind that tender memory, a thread of unease tugged at me. He was slipping into something, burnout, loneliness, maybe both, and I didn't know how to pull him back. A sudden chime of the doorbell startled me. The sound cut through the quiet like a sharp blade. Wiping my hands, I hurried to answer. Standing on the porch was our neighbor, Greg, a kind man in his early 50s with gentle eyes and a toolbox he never went anywhere without. "Evening. Marianne," he greeted with a small smile, snowflakes clinging to his jacket. "Saw your light on? Thought I'd check if your heater's giving you trouble again. It's freezing out here." Relief washed over me, the normalcy of his voice breaking the tension that had been coiling inside me. "You read my mind," I said with a soft laugh. "It's been acting up all day. I was just about to call you." "Let me take a look," he offered, stepping inside and stomping the snow off his boots. He crouched beside the old heater, hands moving with practiced ease as he spoke. His voice filled the empty space, light conversation about his dog, about work, about how he'd seen Daniel heading home late several nights in a row. I smiled where appropriate, but my mind was elsewhere, circling the same worry. Something was breaking in my son, and I couldn't tell what. I didn't notice Daniel at first, standing silently in the hallway. His arms were crossed, his gaze fixed on us, on me maybe. There was an odd flicker in his eyes, something that made my stomach twist. I couldn't tell if he was embarrassed to see Greg fixing things again, or if something else was gnawing at him. When Greg stood, wiping his hands, he flashed a small smile. "That should keep you warm for now. But call me if it acts up again." His voice faltered slightly as his eyes met Daniel's, reading the quiet tension in the air. "Take care, kid," he added gently before slipping out into the night. The silence that followed was thick, too heavy for the small living room. Daniel's jaw tightened, his fingers flexing as though he was wrestling with something unsaid. "I'll figure this out, Mom," he finally muttered. "You don't have to keep worrying." I stepped closer, resting my hand on his arm. "I'll always worry," I said softly. But you're not alone in this, Daniel. Whatever's weighing on you, we'll handle it. Together. His eyes flickered toward me, softening for the briefest moment. He nodded, then leaned against me, his head resting on my shoulder like he used to when he was a child. The gesture was tender, familiar, yet filled with something heavier. My chest ached with love and concern, a silent fear whispering that I was losing him to something invisible. That night dragged on. The house remained cold despite the repaired heater. I checked on Daniel often, watching him toss in restless sleep. He mumbled names, fragments of phrases I couldn't understand. At one point, he whispered, "I'm sorry," into the darkness, and my heart froze. Sorry for what? Over the next few days, his moods shifted unpredictably. Some mornings, he was distant, distracted, like his mind was elsewhere. Other times, he'd hover close, lingering in the kitchen, asking small questions, his tone almost fragile. I sensed an emotional undercurrent in him I couldn't name. Something beyond exhaustion. Something bordering on guilt. Then came the evening that changed everything. I returned home late from the library, the winter wind biting through my coat. As I stepped inside, the house was quiet, too quiet. A faint hum came from the old record player in the living room, spinning a soft tune Daniel used to love as a boy. My stomach twisted with unease. I called his name, but there was no answer. I found him sitting on the couch, staring at nothing. His eyes were red, his expression hollow. On the table before him lay a half-empty bottle of whiskey, one I didn't even know we had. "Daniel?" I exclaimed, hurrying to him. "What's going on with you?" He looked up slowly, his lips parting as if to speak, but no words came out. Then finally, in a cracked whisper, he said, "I messed up, Mom." My heart stopped. "What do you mean?" Tears welled in his eyes. "You remember Greg's daughter, Emily? The one who used to come by and help me with my essays?" "Yes," I said cautiously, dread already crawling up my spine. He buried his face in his hands. She's married now. I shouldn't have. It just happened, Mom. I don't even know what I was thinking. It was one night. I swear, just one night. For a moment, the room spun. The air turned thick, suffocating. The same young man I had raised with every ounce of strength I had. The boy I taught to be kind, honest and respectful, now sat before me, confessing something I could barely process. I wanted to yell, to shake him, to ask how he could make such a choice. But when I looked at him, trembling, broken, ashamed, all I felt was an aching sadness. "Oh, Daniel," I whispered, sinking onto the couch beside him. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" "I didn't want to disappoint you," he choked. "You've always seen me as this good kid. I didn't want you to look at me and see a mistake." My throat tightened. "We all make mistakes. But this," I paused, my voice trembling, "this one will haunt you if you don't make it right." He nodded silently, tears sliding down his cheeks. The sound of the record player crackling filled the silence. It was the same song that used to play when he was little, when the world was simple and forgiveness came easy. That night, I sat by him until he fell asleep, my hand resting gently on his arm. The boundary he had crossed wasn't just moral, it was emotional, something that would ripple through both our lives. I knew the coming days would test us in ways neither of us were ready for. But love, the kind forged through years of hardship, doesn't shatter easily. It bends, it aches, but it endures. I knew I'd stand by him, even if my heart broke a little in the process. Because that's what mothers do. They stand at the edge of the storm, waiting, hoping, praying that the ones they love find their way back home. And as dawn crept through the frosted windows, I made a silent vow. We would heal, not by pretending the pain didn't exist, but by facing it piece by piece, until the warmth returned to our lives once more.